Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to another edition of LATOKEN VCTV. Today, we have an interesting panel and an interesting topic to deal with. And we welcome all our investors, all our startups, businesses, entrepreneurs watching us from anywhere you're in the world. You can also be part of today's show or any other show. If you decide to pitch your startup in front of our panels, you might get the exposure and the funding that you might be looking for. And today we have a guest who will be joining us for the first time on LATOKEN VCTV. We'll be looking forward to hear his insights and opinion on today's topic. And then we have our old-time guest who will be introducing himself later. And we'll look forward to everybody's contribution and insights on today's topic. So today we have an interesting topic. We'll be talking about education technology, how startup education and fun, and how pitching should be done for business owners and startups in the startup education sector. And today we will have input from Adrian. Adrian, thank you for coming on today's show, and introduce yourself to the audience. Let them meet you.
Hello, Nathaniel. Sorry. Hello, Gaurav. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here again. I love to be part of the LATOKEN and Venture Capital TV family because it's a family gathering, and education is very important in the startup world. I'm Adrian Niculescu, serial entrepreneur and investor. My genius zones are marketing, sales, and business development, and I love keeping my hands busy in these areas. Besides my advisory roles and board membership slots, I'm actively involved with CloudCoin Consortium. CloudCoin is a post-blockchain digital currency. Faster Capital, a Dubai-based accelerator and incubator for startups. Saga Global Ventures, which is a UK-based venture capital firm. And also I'm involved as a mentor in Richard Branson's Virgin Startups program in UK. Happy to be here, as usual.
Awesome. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks for your insights and thanks for your introduction. And for the first time on today's show, we have Gaurav all the way from India. Gaurav, please introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know who you are.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. I guess good afternoon, guys. Really excited to be here. My name is Gaurav. I'm from Mumbai in India. Quick background on myself. I guess strategy and finance heavy as a profile. I am a chartered accountant by training. I've worked in investment advisory and investment management for several years in the past, following which I did an MBA in the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad. And post that, I joined the venture capital industry and have started evaluating investment opportunities as part of the fund at which I work and as an angel, coming in the future. I currently work as an investment associate with Anthill Ventures. It's an early stage fund. It looks at consumer tech, media tech, and several other verticals, but mostly consumer tech and media tech is what I look at, and exclusively Indian ecosystem for that. So yeah, excited to be here. Hi.
Awesome. Thanks, Gaurav, and welcome. We look forward to having your insights and share a bit of your knowledge during today's show. And then last but not least, obviously, we have a friend and family member, Gary Fowler, all the way from Florida. I guess, Gary, please let the audience know who you are and brief introduction.
Yeah, great to be here. My name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've done 17 companies, 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team, Click Software, sold the sales force for $1.35 billion, and also Even.ai. I'm currently the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio. And I also started the first accelerator in Russia and also the #1 private corporate accelerator. And I also was an MBA professor. So I went down through that process, working with startups from that part of the world, taking them to Silicon Valley, working with people like Guy Kawasaki, Bob Dorff, Steve Blank, the whole lean startup movement, and still a bit involved with it. So it's great to be here today. Thank you very much.
Awesome, awesome. And then my name is Nathaniel Oluwatomi Amida, from Lagos, Nigeria, and that's where I'm presenting and moderating today's show from. And look forward to having an interesting conversation on today's topic. So, education startups. It's basically in its early stages of development, and it actually shows promise as a method of customizing curriculums for a student's learning ability by introducing and reinforcing content at the pace that a student can easily grasp. Now, there are challenges in the education sector globally, and as of 2018, a total of 250 million plus children, adolescents, were out of school. And I can tell you also that in this part of the world, I mean in Africa, it is projected that by the year 2030, there will be at least 1 billion students, there will be 1 billion youths that will be out of school, uneducated, and unemployed. A billion. Now, someone might say that how serious that is. I mean, if you compare these numbers with the rising cases of crime, violence, terrorism, there is a strong correlation. So, welcome to the world of education startups. And so, first of all, I'd like to start off with this question: the major advantages of an education startup. What hole or what role does an education startup intend to plug in terms of comparing with the traditional education system run by government, private individuals? Um, I'm also using this opportunity to welcome our guests that are making comments online. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You are welcome to contribute, ask questions, and I'm sure our panelists will be able to give feedback. So, Adrian, I'd like to start from you, and I'd like to start from asking you what major hole is the education startup plugin compared to the traditional systems? I mean, are they complementing traditional systems or competing with traditional systems of education?
First, I would like to talk a little bit about my personal experience because
Thank you.
I want to share from practice and not from what I'm reading in books. So I went to a high school, to a university. I did a master's, I did an MBA, and the worst moment in my business was after I received the MBA degree. And somehow for me, the universe told me, Adrian, you need to learn some other things. And it happened in a period when it was like 10 years ago when I really started my personal development journey. I went to learn from Anthony Robbins, to read Kiyosaki's books, to do so many things. And back then, I've learned that what we accumulate as information in the formal education makes for 20% of our success, not more than that. So for the 80%, you need to learn something else. In that moment, I understood why people who are high school dropouts um, become widely successful startup founders and hire people who are finishing MBAs. Of course, there isn't one rule for everybody. Everybody has a different journey. I will recommend to accumulate both formal education and both a different type of education. And I believe that this different type of education, the education which can change your habits, which can change your routines, which can teach you how to manage your emotions, how to increase your financial intelligence, and all the other things which you can't learn in the schools we all know. This is the huge gap which is a place for immense opportunities in the educational education startup world.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for that, Adrian. In other words, I think if I get you right, education startups should focus mainly to complement whatever other form of education exists in the formal sector, either by government or private institutions. Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for that, Gary. I mean, you've seen it all, done it all, and you have built very, very successful companies. What is your take on the role alternative education or education startups have to play in modern day development? Are they complementary or competing?
Well, so like Adrian, I mean, going down through it, going through graduate school myself and coming out, it's really learned by doing. And going down through the process, there's really, three stages of a startup: the acceleration phase, regional dominance, and then going global. But if you go down through, what are kind of the soft skills and what are the hard skills? So soft skills are things like visualization, visualizing where you want to go. Then the situation is, do you really believe in what your dream is or not? I know this is really simple, but as a clinical psychologist, my graduate degree is in clinical psychology. Do you really believe it? Can you visualize? I did a TED Talk, by the way, Nathaniel, called Passion, Optimism, and Visualization. And so do you have the right stuff to do that? Do you think positively? Those is like the fuel for the engine to be able to get it out of the garage. Then the situation is, most startups fail. Why do they fail? 9 out of 10 startups fail because they don't have the kind of guidance they need in order to be successful. What does that mean? You need to have things like intergenerational teams, world-class mentors that can really help guide you down through the process. My first startup at 21 years old, I came out of graduate school. I didn't know anything about doing a startup. Of course, I had some little businesses, but not a serious startup. So I was really lucky. I was fortunate because a very successful businessman who's still my friend today helped me and guided me, told me, kicked me in the pants and told me what I should do and shouldn't do. I mean, like figuratively said, do this, do that. And he's a PhD in business. He left teaching at a university to start companies. The first mail order computer company, stereo chain, digital ad company, those kind of things. But anyhow, he really put it in the right direction because he guided it through the process. And part of what it is having the right guidance to be able to get through the process. When you're doing a startup, it's not about reading the books. It's about taking the action. So what I found, and our accelerators had over 4,000 students for it. What I found is once the students understand what the possibilities are, they do it. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, right? Dropped out of Harvard University. Bill Gates out of Harvard. Now, some people forget they both came from very wealthy families, right? Bill Gates' father is, K&L Gates was a great lawyer, a billion-dollar law firm located in Seattle, Washington. But do you have the right stuff? And the other thing is, remember what Bill Gates said, always hire people that are smarter than you. If you hire people that are smarter than you, you win. So that's part of the right stuff. Have compassion for those people. And once you've gone down through it a few times and learned those lessons and stay focused, you can be successful. But it's a learning by doing model.
Thank you very much, Gary. You've highlighted something else that has made education look less formal, and that is you learn by doing. Obviously, you cannot do within the walls of institutions. So how do you do? How is it practical? And interesting. I guess we'll...
Nathaniel, I want to say one thing because I've talked about this a lot. The first MBA program in the world was at Harvard University. That MBA program was to teach managers how to manage, not how to do startups. If you look at what an MBA teaches you, it's not to take risk, it's to be able to conform. So in fact, they're diametrically opposed. So the very thing that we have in place, it's great to have MBAs, as Adrian will agree, later on, but it's not great in the beginning because they're not going to take the risks in order to get a startup really moving forward. You need a different kind of mindset.
Yeah, obviously, a much more bullish and aggressive mindset, I guess. Gaurav, welcome to today's show and give me your insights. Do you think startup education is complementing or competing with the traditional system? And what's your insight on startup education?
So yeah, thank you, Nathaniel. Broadly speaking, I don't think that it's competing. I think it's complementing to a great extent. And I guess that's visible, especially from the more populous markets in Asia like China and India, where you will find that the products that are being developed these days are more to solve problems within and outside a classroom environment and to upskill students, entrepreneurs alike, businesses alike. And generally speaking, what I've noticed is that the education goes beyond just learning the basic subjects that you have to learn as a part of your overall upskilling and education. From grade school all the way to grad school. So broadly speaking, yes, I think that is complementary and it's helping to add that extra level of understanding, that extra level of practicality, the level of upskilling in a manner that you can utilize it on a day-to-day basis, be it in business or otherwise. And keeping all this in mind, I feel that going forward also, I think education in general have to keep on getting more dynamic. The problem, however, is that the school system, the education system, if I have to speak, taking the Indian education system for an example, the school system is relatively rigid, and there's a reason behind it, which is that there's a large population of people who fall in that education bucket. For example, in India, there's nearly 250 to 300 million people who fall between that 5 and 21-year age. And following a sort of systemic way of teaching, covering a set of disciplines and topics becomes necessary from a school's point of view. And I guess that's where the startup ecosystem comes in to bridge the gap between what you need to know theoretically and what you need to know to upskill yourself and have knowledge relevant to the current ecosystem and environment we're in. So yeah, that's my take on this.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Gaurav. And before I move on to the rest, you mentioned some things about startup education in education basically in India. And I'd like to know for a startup education firm, or company or a group just starting out, what do you think are the immediate challenges they need to overcome to be able to succeed? Um, some might argue technology, some might argue some psychological input into the curriculum, some other alternative form of what are the challenges that you have noticed over the years that they need to approach and overcome before they become successful?
Sure. So there are quite a few of them actually, depending on the kind of business model and the kind of age group that you're looking to touch. So, for example, if you're looking at a B2C segment where you want to teach students a particular topic directly, the challenges are different versus following a B2B model where you're solving a stacked problem. Simply speaking, I don't think technology is the biggest deterrent because at least in the current ecosystem, at least in 2021, it's really easy to set up a platform which can be used to disseminate information and knowledge and data in general. I think the bigger challenge, at least from the Indian ecosystem point of view, is data validation. So there are several people out there who are building businesses which are tailored towards a particular topic, towards a segment, a discipline. But it's very difficult from the parents' point of view, from the students itself, from their point of view, to validate how much value, practically and otherwise, would this particular program or this series or class add to my overall education and my knowledge. And I guess the validation of information is very, very critical over here. Being able to sell the information correctly as the kind of information you're teaching, the kind of topics you're covering, it's very critical to be able to cover those which are relevant currently and which are able to add more value relative to what you would be earning from the current areas from which you're studying. And one of the ways I'm finding a lot of education startups, a lot of education institutions do that is by partnering with with experts, with professionals, with professors who come with a legacy amount of information from that industry, because they're able to like, bridge that gap between what is right and what needs to be done.
Awesome. Thank you. A lot of collaboration needs to be done to surmount the challenges that they will likely face. Collaboration. Adrian, please share with us your insights on the challenges that startup education needs to confront and surmount before they can actually be successful.
First, it's a very different world, because when and we all start somehow in a certain form of formal education, where if you have good grades, you are categorized like a good pupil, a good student, and when you have bad grades, you are a failure. Once you embrace the entrepreneurship world, the startup world, you find out that you need to fail a lot, and the more you fail, the more you succeed, and you need to start to learn how to fail, so to fail forward, so from every failure to embrace it, to learn from it, to improve, and when you fail in the future, to fail less, to fail in a different way, and to advance. And most of the people, they can't cope with this paradigm, because, as said, is very different. And if you label yourself a failure because you are failing too much, it will be very complicated to succeed. So you need to change some pieces here between your ears, because here are in the most of your problems and most of your blockages. And once you start working on yourself, because you realize that the biggest competitor is you, the one who you were yesterday. And today you need to be better than yesterday, and tomorrow you need to be better than today. And build and build and build, and fail, and get up from failing forward, and you start running a new type of marathon, and it takes time. And they said most of the people, they can't cope with the pain, because you will encounter a lot of pain, and sometimes this pain is so big that to say, okay, I want to go back to the other world because I can't cope with the pain. So these are the biggest challenges. If you can overcome these challenges, everything else will be a piece of cake.
Thank you very much, Adrian. In other words, I get the feeling that you feel there's a multiverse where success is important in one and failure is important in the other. And it all depends on the career path that each individual takes. I mean, I think firsthand I understand what you say about failing forward. A lot of people going through the traditional ways of education do not smile lightly on failure. But for an entrepreneur, it's a key tool to be able to advance. But a lot of startups go into the slays the industry hoping to just succeed at the first go. But it's important to understand that failure is an integral part of success. So I think one of the things I've taken from you is that startups need to also understand and learn how to fail, but fail forward. Gary, give me some insights. What you think education startups need to focus on and overcome to succeed?
Well, I mean, the situation is, look at it, and I've had many speeches about this topic, and it's not about failure. Look at it like this. Let's just say you're taking a trip. You go down the road and you make the wrong turn. What do? You make a U-turn, you turn. That's not failure. You're just course correcting. So if we keep, Mother Teresa said that we need to be pro-peace and not stop war. Let's think of it in an entirely different way. And, part of the reason that startups do fail, that they don't move in that direction, as you say, they don't they're not successful is because they don't do customer development. They don't talk to the potential customers. I remember when we did EVA recently. I started it with, co-founded it with David Yang, a billionaire from Russia. And we went down and we interviewed 50 people apiece in Palo Alto, California, took our product that we were proposing. We actually made PowerPoint presentations, took an iPhone, put it on a stand, and we looked at what they said about the product. And I had a vice president of Apple there, happened to be at a cafe, somebody from Palantir, just all kinds of interesting people. But what it did is it gave us a lot of feedback, because part of what happens when technologists start companies is they overbuild products. They don't come up with an MVP, and they find that people don't want it. And so what we got to do is really have a paradigm shift and move in an entirely different direction. Find your MVP. And remember, when Steve Blank, Bob Dorff, and Eric Ries talk, they say that it's when they grab it out of your hands, you know you have something really special. When people are willing to take money out of their pocket, not your friends, but individuals, corporations are willing to take, whether it's B2C or B2B, money out of their pocket to pay for it. Then you know you've got your product market fit and that you're really right for the market. So I would say, you need to make those pivots faster. You need to do them very quickly, because time is money and you don't want to be wasting money. And the other thing is, the mentality of doing it's not easy doing a startup. Listen, there are ins and outs and ups and downs all the time, every single day. But I guess, you got to look at it. I look at it like it's an adventure ride and you're going into Disney World. And so the thing is, put your seatbelt on, buckle up, and hold on and enjoy it. It's not just about screaming, it's about having some fun. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have this really positive focus as we're going down through this journey. The other thing,
okay,
you need to make sure when you're building a company that you really have three players. This is from my perspective. You need to have, and I'll label them from my own personal perspective. You need somebody that can run the company operationally, COO type. You need inspiration. You need creativity. You need somebody at a higher level that can help do that, that's got the connections and the network to be able to pull it off. And then you need somebody that knows finance. So if you have those three elements, and of course you could have two people that have those elements, but you need to have those elements in order to really make it take off. And again, you need people that are very positive and not pessimistic all the time about it. Oh, I don't know. I hear that a lot from start. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't work. I hope. I'm going to try. I mean, think about it. I would never invest. If somebody says I'm going to try, maybe it'll work, would you put your money in it? It's like, come on. That'd be a zero chance that I'm going to do that. So, a friend of mine told me something one time. In fact, he's a very, very successful businessman. And one time I had a question about whether or not I was going to take an action. And he's my mentor. And he said, Gary, pull a quarter out of your pocket. And he said, give it to me. And he flipped it. And he said, call it heads or tails. And I said, heads. He says, it's heads. But if you never took that quarter out of your pocket and tried, nothing would have happened. So what you want to do is, if you try, at least you have some chance for success.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Gary. A lot to learn in there, and I hope the audience are really having a good time. This is an opportunity for you watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter. I see some comments coming in. If you do have questions, please drop them in the comment box and we'll give you feedback immediately. Most of the comments are appreciating our insights and appreciating all that is going on here. So let's keep it coming, and also give an opportunity to founders, startups, entrepreneurs that have a business idea, any idea that you have and you like to pitch to our panel. You could easily schedule a pitching session and we will put you on one of these shows where you pitch live and get feedback. and get the exposure and the funding you're probably looking for. So let's go to the second half of the show, and I'd like to ask bluntly, what is it that investors look at when education startups are pitching, Gaurav? I mean, what are the must-haves that projects a startup should present to an investor?
Sure. So, speaking generally, and I won't even limit this just to the education sector, I
Okay,
think
that's
a
great.
couple of very critical things that I feel any startup must be addressing. One is definitely, as I think Gary very succinctly put, is a good product market fit. I think this is very critical because creating a product that has universal acceptance across the markets which you're looking to sell, the markets that you're looking to test, is very critical because you can create a product, you can solve a problem. But if you're not solving a problem that needs to be solved, if you're not solving it in the way it needs to be solved, you're going to find it very difficult to sell that. So that's very critical, having the right kind of product market fit. The second thing I feel is having a good vision, and I think that is universally applicable to every startup, every venture out there. Having the right vision, having the right reason, the right path behind why you're doing something makes all the difference between your ability to sell it, your ability to succeed at it, and that conviction where you might not be able to succeed. That's another thing. And finally, the third thing, I think, again, speaking very specifically to a venture that's looking to raise capital, is having a lot of clarity in how they want to deploy and utilize their funds. I think this is important because an investment, as any other investment goes, carries an inherent risk. And a founder can have the right kind of pedigree. His team might have the ability to execute, but you need to have a little clarity, a very strategic, go-to plan of action to be able to determine where am I going to take the business once I've raised my money? Where am I going to take it for the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, till I decide to take it to the next level, which might be another round of funding. Having a clear roadmap and an ability to execute along with milestones, if possible, if preferable, um, really makes a big difference in your ability to pitch the right kind of idea and create that opportunity for yourself. So I feel these are certain integral factors that should form a part of any particular investor's pitch.
Thank you very much, Gaurav. A good product market fit, vision and clarity of how fundings will be deployed, integral and vital ingredients in pitching to an investor, especially for any startup or for an ed startup. Adrian, your thoughts. What are the necessary ingredients?
In many occasions, a pitch deck is like a sales letter, and in many instances is done by an agency, by a marketing company, and it's very easy to create a very nice pitch deck. If you look online, you can find thousands of pitch decks. So it's pretty easy to lure the investors, putting there what they want to see. What is even more important than that is the quality of the team, and to show that the team has the capacity to execute on what you put in the pitch deck, and also to have the power, that team, to pivot if something bad happens, because the market can change pretty fast, and what is a very good opportunity now can become a huge opportunity in 1 year from now, or not necessarily a good one, and you need to pivot. And if the team is very good, they will be successful in pivoting, so the money which are invested will actually not be lost. And this is a very important thing. No matter how good is the idea, how great is the opportunity, 99% is the implementation. So you need to have the people who are ready to overcome all the pains of executing in order for that deck to become reality.
Thank you very much, Adrian. I guess that's pretty precise. You need to have a pitch deck, team quality that is able and ready to pivot when necessary, and a team that is ready to implement and go all the way in executing the project. Um, Very important traits and very scarce in these times. Gary, um, what do you think? Vital ingredients for a successful ed startup?
Well, so the team is obviously critically important. As I said, having the right type of team that really complements each other, having the right kind of vision, that positive outlook is critically important. The glass is half full, not half empty. Having the right kind of contacts, knowing where you want to go as a company. For instance, when companies get started, they're not sure what direction they're going to take, and they really have three levels. One is acceleration, two is regional dominance, and three is going global. So what direction do they want to take? Resilience. So, Muhammad Ali, actually several of the boxers have said it, but I remember Muhammad Ali saying one time, a boxer from quite some time ago, said, it's not the person that gets knocked down, it's the person that gets back up. So it's the person that gets back up again to be able to confront. And, like I said, it's, doing a startup has a lot of ups and downs and ins and outs. You got to be wanting to go on the ride. And if you look at it in a positive sense, that you enjoy it and, it's like a journey, then it's fun. But if you look at like it's a negative,
Sure.
a
Yeah.
chore, just a job, forget about it. It's not that, then it becomes not interesting. So you have to have people that thrive on risk, that enjoy it. Just imagine, it's like taking a piece of clay and molding it into some beautiful, beautiful vase and, putting it in the kiln and firing it. That's what it's all about. You're taking something that's nothing and making it real. And that's where the beauty of doing a startup. So when I talk about soft skills, the soft skills are important. I remember when I started that first accelerator in Russia, and I started the students, I had two people in my entrepreneurs club. At my very last entrepreneurs club, before I started another company, within 1 year, I had 2,506 people attending my entrepreneurs club. I had to actually get an additional, so I had an entire auditorium filled, and then I had part of the outside filled with monitors. It was that big. So what happens? People start, it's almost like evangelical Christianity. People start to really come around because they want to feel the positive spirit. It makes you feel really good to be around people that think like you and work together. So that's where it's interesting. So in terms of the ingredient, people that want to have those kind of positive experiences. The other thing is, how do you learn about doing a startup? It's just like here on VCTV, talking about the latest technologies, the latest service, the latest products. And that's critically important for startups to understand where the market's going. So they don't want to waste time. Move faster and then, pivot sooner.
Thank you very much, Gary. I mean, great insight there, and there is a lot to pick. The team and the tenacity of the team, I mean, to me, stood out for me. They need to be dynamic, ready to pivot when necessary, and hopefully they can get the kind of attention that they want. Um, I see around that there are a lot of projects that tend to be education startups, but then they don't solve real problems. So my next question is that what, Adrian mentioned a while ago, I mean, there's the formal education and the informal education, and the world is moving at a fast pace now. Information changes every second. Now, what should education startups be focused more on? Are we saying we have enough of the formal education and we should go informal, or what blend of education should be focused on? Because there is an abundance of information out there and shortage of skills to meet up with this demand. So, what is the best approach for any startup to confront this? Gaurav, let me start with you.
Sure. I guess you know, that's actually an interesting question. I feel in the long run, you want to be, at least today, you want to be teaching a skill that can give you relevant opportunity to employ in the long run. It may not necessarily be formal or informal. It might be teaching you a particular discipline, or it could even just be teaching you a particular skill, which is very physically employable. Maybe that's not really that necessary. I think what matters is teaching something that can be applied over a longer period of time, covering a topic. For example, in the technology domain, I guess machine learning is all the rage right now. Learning how to employ technology to be able to better improve recommendations over a website are very, very relevant. Having a technology background in general is very relevant. In fact, I'm personally experiencing that myself. Having come from an extremely finance domain background, I feel like where I'm falling back is getting more upskilled when it comes to tech. And I think tech plays a major role in almost every facet of a business today. So teaching something that's going to give you a particular skill set or a domain of knowledge that's going to be relevant not just today, but over a period of the next 3 to 5 years, helps you to maintain that sort of return on investment that you want to create from the education that you're trying to attain. And I guess that's something that founders should look at, because it's going to be an easy sell. If you're teaching a topic that people want to learn, which they can immediately go out there and apply, not just today, but 6 months, 12 months from now, even several years from now, or something that they can build on several years from now, then I guess then you're in the right space. You're covering the right product then.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gaurav. It's important. I mean, from what I get, it's important for startups, business, and the individuals involved to teach or learn skills that will be applicable for the future, not just for the present. Adrian, just give me a summary. What do you think should be the focus, blend of learning?
I would say that also the formal education has opportunities, because as a startup, you can work with governments and have governments as clients, which can develop products and reshape how formal education is conducted. Think about that fact that so many kids during this period are at home doing online schooling. And most of the teachers were not ready for something like that. And the parents and the children are saying that their output, the amount of knowledge they acquired through online learning, is much less than the one which was acquired during the face-to-face classes. And for example, if you have a math problem, you can find online already a lot of platforms which are working in parallel with formal education, where you can find other people to show you the results and how to solve that math problem. There is a new system which is built in parallel with the formal education, and some of those startups, they have funding from governments, or they offer schools, private schools and public schools, access to their platforms, so to use them as ecosystems for learning, and they can make a lot of income by doing that. So besides developing platforms for non-formal education, I see a lot of opportunities and things happening in reshaping how formal education is served to the children, to the students.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So there has to be an equal blend, so to say, of how formal education is delivered and how informal education is consumed via whatever platform. Thank you very much for that, Adrian. Gary, you come from a very much developed society, and I know formal education plays a significant role there, But then most of the skills that makes most of your top businessmen is the informal sort of education. So How do you feel an edtech should go about such blend, formal or informal or equal blend?
Well, I lived in Russia 14 years. So, I mean, I was over there. I started coming over to Russia right after the wall came down. So I've been around both developed and underdeveloped. And I've seen a lot of changes in that part of the world. So, I mean, it's, the situation is you learn by doing. If you do something, you remember it. It's just the way it is. You remember what happens. So, what I suggest is it's great to have knowledge, but when you read a book, you don't remember a lot, do you? I mean, it's just an exercise. But the situation, and once you put it to use and try it, you remember it. So the thing is, learning by doing. I know when we did our startup academy, this was over in Russia. It was a 12-week program, and it was all practical. There were no books, right? Of course, we had some presentations, but I remember when we did pitch training, and I would put the students in front of the class and go down through their pitches and make them practice. Learn by doing. Learn by doing. Steve Jobs was not a good presenter. By the way, these are important skills to have. He would practice for 6 weeks. In fact, if you go on the internet and say Steve Jobs' first presentation, you can see how lousy he was. He said, I'm gonna get sick. I'm sick to my stomach. I think I'm gonna throw up. He was that scared. Now imagine. So practice, practice, practice. And those kind of skills, being able to convey a message to a wide audience and to be able to paint pictures with words are very, very important skill to have. So those are the kind of things, keeping a positive attitude, being able to present, having the right kind of team, and learn by doing.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Gary. You're a doer, and I've seen you do a couple of stuff. So, and you actually believe in practice. Practice makes perfect. Do more, act less. Talk less and do more. So, thank you for your feedback. I'm sure the audience had a lot to learn. I think we've come to the very tail end of today's show. I know that for the audience, there is an opportunity for you to go back to the video and watch the comments of each of our panelists today, learn from it, have questions, post them in the comment section. Our team will easily get those questions and give you feedback from our panelists. And I'm sure that you can also connect with each of these panelists on social media, on LinkedIn especially. But just before we go, please let me give each person a parting shot. Gaurav, what's your parting shot to projects that are looking for investments, edtech projects especially? What's your parting shot as we close?
As a parting, I think the biggest thing to consider is the economy is very dynamic, and opportunities aren't going to stop coming out. And especially speaking, if I look at any of the markets in which our fund operates, it's on the rise. It's going to catch fire. So keep developing your product. I think product is very important. Having the right kind of idea that you want to execute, as they've also pointed out, having the right kind of team, very important. Broadly speaking, yes, there's no right time to execute, but the earlier the better. And broadly speaking, I think that in the long run, I think the person who is got the right kind of vision, the right kind of execution, will definitely succeed. So don't hold back. Don't be scared from your mistakes. Just keep treading forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Please, how can you be reached for any of the audience trying to reach out to you?
Sure. So I'm actually very active on LinkedIn. You can just find my email ID. It's also linked onto the server at LATOKEN, and I'm happy to address any questions, connect with you guys to chat virtually or even physically if you're present in the same city as me.
Awesome. Adrian, as we go, parting shots, insights.
You need more than ever, not just a business plan, you need a GPS. As Gary mentioned, if you miss the direction, it's not necessarily a failure, but maybe you took a different road. You need to get back. It's exactly if you go from city A to city B during the night by car, you only see the next, I don't know, 100 to 200 meters. You know where is the destination, but you don't know if on the road will be an accident, if there will be snow or rain or something else, or if the car will work until the destination. Maybe something will break down and you will need to call a mechanics or something like that. But you need to stick, like with a GPS, you need to stick to the destination, and no matter what happens, because sometimes to reach the destination, you will need to do some things you don't have a clue right now that you will have to do later. There will be so many things which are outside of your reach, which may happen or which may try to stop you to reach the goal. But once you concentrate on the goal, it's something known from the personal development industry. When you fix on that goal, from around you will come resources, people, money, other things which will help you to reach that goal, no matter what obstacles you will encounter. You need to start working in this specific way, which is not something common. We are not used to think and to act in this way, but it's essential in order to succeed. If you don't get this type of knowledge, if you don't apply it, it becomes very hard, close to impossible, to reach the goals, especially when you have big goals. Because you could have small goals, of course you will reach them, but will not matter a lot.
Thank you very much for that, Adrian. I think I'm a believer in what you just said, how you focus on all your goals and focus less on the distractions, and then things will just align to help you achieve that desired goal. It's a skill not many people know of, but as an entrepreneur, as a startup business person, it's important that you focus and wait for all the energies to support your um, goal, your achievement. Thank you very much for that. Gary, as we go, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, these are exciting times. And, as these startups all over the world, you said it succinctly. I wouldn't, the folks that are out there, the students, the young folks of the world need to look forward and create opportunities for them, create these new businesses, be successful. And, Nathaniel, a lot of it is by example. When you have one person that they can photo, like Flutterwave, that has had a success, it makes it a whole lot easier to get people interested because they understand that the dream and the possibility is real. So those are the kind of things, and it's happening now. I mean, it's already happened. I don't know. Flutterwave is a unicorn today. So
Yes.
so what we need to do is we need to focus on those opportunities, use example, lead by example, and follow your dreams. If you believe you can do it, a lot of people talk but never do anything in their lives. They always talk about the idea that they had that they never followed. Just do it. It's about execution. Just do it. Try. You're never going to know. So anyhow, you can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Facebook or on Twitter. Love to hear from you. I've got shows. Just go to Google, put in my name, and I interviewed Guy Kawasaki. He's got a lot of inspiration. His partner, Bill Reichert, and a lot of interesting folks out there that can give you some knowledge and share what they've done and give you some pointers for the future. So great to be here. Great to see my friends today, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, everyone. And if there's any takeaway I have for the entrepreneurs out there, so it's that you should surround yourself with positive people, surround yourself with people that know better than you, surround yourselves with people that inspire you. If not, you will have a hard time. Thank you, everyone, for coming for today's show. Another show starts in a couple of minutes, hosted by my colleague, Sonny Mohanty. And you can tune into that, and we hope to see you next time. So have a good day and